Hello, beautiful people. I just finished teaching my classes. I'm sitting here, haven't even started my feedback yet. But I had a good morning. I ended it on a really good note, and I had a really dear student who I just enjoy class with so much. I had her near the end of my teaching session today, and I just have so much fun with her, and I have a really strong emotional bond with her. So I'm always sad to say bye to her. And at the end of the class, I was just telling her, I was like, I don't want to say bye. And she speaks English pretty well, but they are not as well as some of my closest students. So not as well as like some of my students that I have been teaching for a longer time. I think I've had like 4 classes with her or something so far, but I have a really strong bond with her in just a short time, and I like, she's so dear to me. And I just experience so much. I feel so much joy when I speak to her and I interact with her. So she was saying the same thing at the end of class. She was like, "Not bye." She's like, She was like, "I don't want to say bye." And I also typed that in the chat window. And what's really great is some of my children can use the chat window. Like if I type to them, they can actually click and see the translation in their language. So she was able to do that. Not all of my students are able to do this. Sometimes I'll type in the chat window and they don't even know that the chat window exists. Or some of my students will just use the chat window to type emojis, and they don't actually read yet the letters in the chat window. Or maybe if they see them, they're not even aware that they can translate them, that they could click the little button and have it translated. So anyway, I'm able to use the chat window when communicating with her, and that helps us to learn even more and interact even more during class. So I had a great morning. In just following up with my appeal from my previous video, previous few videos, I mentioned an appeal for a class where a mother was constantly touching her son's face and grabbing things out of his hand. And I actually had to pause the class and try to interact with her. But it didn't, she wasn't really willing to interact with me. And then she just, she walked away. So I appealed the class, and I actually read the appeal to you guys because she gave me a lower rating than what I believe this class was worthy of. And my appeal was actually approved. The company also, I don't know how they base their feedback. I don't know how they respond to these appeals. I've gotten some responses that are very generic, and I don't know if this one is. I can't really tell. But this one says 2 things. It says, encourage your students to use complete sentences during class, which will help them remember the course material while developing their communication skills and English fluency. So this is not an issue that I have with, because I literally carry a conversation from the beginning to the end of class in all of my classes. And that just depends on the student's ability to communicate. So the only reason in which the student would not be saying sentences is if the student was not comfortable. But I always encourage, I'll sing the sentences, and I'll wait for them. And many times, they come around. And I think this student did feel a little bit hesitant to say the sentences. He read very well, but in his speaking, in his dialogue, I think he was a little shy. But I tried, and I can't force the student, and I never want to do that, because that just pushes them away from learning. And just my goal is really to make them feel good about themselves, because I know that will ultimately allow them to learn more, right? If they feel good about themselves and they know that they are capable of learning, they will ultimately learn more. The other thing that they mention is about the light could be lighter. And now this actually makes me think that it is a genuine response, because it says maybe there is some shadow in your background. And I remember this time when I was teaching my class, I think I teach classes with two lamps next to me, and I think one of my lamps was not plugged in, so I was using the backup lamp. So I think this response is genuine, and I do want to make sure that my lamps are both working before I start teaching classes, because that is really important. And then the better the student can see me, the better, like, it's just so important for them to be able to see me because it's such a small window. So I completely agree with that, and I'm definitely going to try and make sure. But the thing about the sentences, that's something that I've been doing for so long in every class. But I try to always encourage students. Their output is so important to me, but I never push them past what I believe is good for their confidence, for their self-esteem, because there just becomes a point where they lose joy, they lose their interest of learning, and they lose maybe how they feel about themselves. And their confidence is the most important aspect in learning in their life, right? Because if they believe that they can do something, and if they feel good about doing it, if they feel good about themselves, then they can do anything, right? But if I push them to say a sentence that they are not ready to, or if a child is not yet comfortable, right? You really have to hear a lot of English or hear any language before feeling comfortable to actually speak it, because it just sounds so foreign to you. And I've had this conversation with many of my students. I mean, this particular student that I am speaking about, that I had to appeal for, this student, this is the first time that I've met him. But in my relationships with my regular students, I speak to their parents about talking to their kids in English at home, because a child will learn any language in the same way in which they learn it at home, right? It has to become second nature to them. So in order for that to happen, they need to be exposed to it. There needs to be so much exposure to it, right? Books, their parents speaking to them. And a lot of my parents, a lot of my Chinese parents actually know a lot of English. Like a lot of my Chinese parents know at least a little bit of English. So I tell them, please speak to your child in whatever you know. And often the response that I get from the parent is that, my English is not that good, or my English is limited. And what I always say in return is that if you speak to your son or daughter in English, both of you will improve. And they always agree with that, because that is the truth, right? We're never the only way to learn is by making mistakes. So we really have to get over our discomfort with making mistakes, and with, maybe being wrong, because that is how we will learn. And then I have other parents. I mean, I have one family that since I had this conversation with them, I actually hear them speak in English at home, right? And I have such a close relationship with this family that I will hear them speak in English like outside of class, right? So not just during class. So like, and I imagine that was a little strange to them in the beginning, but the more you speak it, the more comfortable you become, and then it just becomes like, okay, like we speak in English sometimes, like it's normal, right? So and I encourage my parents to do this, because it's not like your child will lose their native tongue, right? They will speak their native tongue in school. They will speak their native tongue everywhere else. But if you at least speak English, or speak the language that they are learning at home, well, I mean, then they benefit. Then you benefit as well, right? And a lot of my parents are also, they are also open to learning, right? So they even tell me like, yeah, like I want to learn, and you are my teacher too. And so I'm like, yeah, like, we will all grow and learn together, and I want to learn their language, right? So I tell them, like, I have a lot to learn from you. I want to learn from you. I learn from you, right? And so collectively, like, that is our goal, right? Like, we're all here to learn from each other. We're all here to make each other better. Why not? And there are so many languages. Like, of course I want to speak another language. Of course I want to learn another language. It only just makes me richer. Like it only makes me able to communicate with more people, right? And express myself in more ways, like in different languages, like, and think in different languages. Like I can only imagine even what that just does for my brain, right? I want that for myself. I want that for my life. So, and I see a lot of the parents of the students that I teach, they also recognize that they want that for their life. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing when, you know, when we grow past our discomfort and we realize that our goal is actually more, it's worthy of working through that discomfort. And I believe that it is. I mean, I try to speak Chinese and I have no idea like what I'm saying. Like my students will say something and I will try to repeat it after them, and I just try, right? And I know that I'm wrong, I know that I'm making mistakes, but I do it so that they can see that, you know, this teacher is also like is also putting herself in the same situation, you know, and they can actually hear me make mistakes and know that it's okay, right? Because it's all part of learning, it's all part of being human, right? So that's it. Like we make mistakes and we learn. Like that's how it goes. So I hope this was helpful to you guys, and I hope that you also find ways to work past your discomfort in not just this way in your life, but as many ways as you can. Because that's my goal for myself, right? Wherever I feel fear, wherever I feel discomfort, I want to lean into that. I want to move in that direction. And for so long, I was really afraid. I wasn't like that at all. For so long, I stayed in my comfort zone, and I realized that life, staying in my comfort zone, did not give me the life that I wanted. So I realized that everything that I want is actually past that, is outside of that, and it's worth it. It's so worth it. It's so worth working through the discomfort and the fear. So I wish that for myself. I wish that for all my students. I wish that for all my parents. I wish that for everybody I know, and I wish that for you too. And I love you. I love you so much. Go work through your discomfort and go help encourage the people around you to do the same. I love you. Have a beautiful day.